A spring nor'easter is rolling in, and some areas may see a little more snow than expected.
Another aspect of the storm today, coastal flooding. We'll let you know which areas have the highest risk.
Snow. There's also a coastal flood threat. Ryan Breton is with us this morning. He's down on the Portland waterfront. Hey, Ryan.
Hi, Todd. We've been pretty fortunate so far this winter. Not too many events coinciding with high astronomical tides. Back in November, we did have a pretty bad nor'easter during a high astronomical tide, but since then, not much. Today, though, we'll be watching the coast around midday. The highest tide of the month happening in Portland, about 11.2 feet. Flood stage is 12 feet. We'll get pretty close, if not going over that, in southern and coastal Maine. A coastal flood advisory has been issued as a result. In Portland, watch out for water rises in East Bayside, around Marginal Way, and along the wharfs here in Commercial Street. Southern and coastal beaches will be watching places like Webb Hannett Drive and Wells, and Camp Ellis and Saco, notorious for flooding. Actually, North Avenue there was closed back in November due to flooding, and it's been closed all winter long. The city trying to figure out what they'll do with that after the winter season ends. They've been replenishing sand on the beach to try to mitigate the threat of today's coastal flood and future coastal flood events as well. So it's the noon high tide today and the potential for additional flooding tonight and possibly tomorrow. Some minor splashover also possible along the beaches. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. Watch out in those susceptible areas around noon today. That's the latest. We're live in Portland. I'm meteorologist Ryan Breton. Clay, back to you.
With the storm. Let's go to Ryan. And Ryan, you're glad you brought the big boots out. It looks a little messy down there off Commercial.
That's right, Keith. We're still about 50 minutes out from high tide, but this area already flooding here this afternoon, and it's about 1.5 feet deep at its deepest with still some time to go. But we've seen just about everything in southern Maine this morning. Started out as some very wet snow in the Portland area just in time for the morning commute. It didn't accumulate a whole lot, but it may have took some people by surprise for a little bit this morning. Those big wet flakes coming down around 8 o'clock in the city. And a little bit farther inland, it was enough for some minor accumulation around Gray and Gorham. But now our concern definitely shifting to the coastal flooding. High tide coming up between about 12:30 and 1 o'clock, depending on where you are. And a coastal flood warning has been issued for the coasts of Cumberland and York counties. That's up until 3 o'clock this afternoon because it'll take a little bit of time for this water to subside. It's a high astronomical tide we're dealing with today, around 11.2 feet. Flood stage in Portland is 12 feet. So you tack on the storm surge, which is about another 1.5 feet or so, and you get scenes like this. In fact, if you look over my shoulder, you can see a car right now trying to get out of this here, and it's close to 2 feet deep down there. Not a place where you want to be in a storm like this because obviously you can get stalled and stuck and whatnot. So getting out now is probably the best case scenario because high tide coming up here on Commercial Street around 12:55. So this water is going to continue to go up, and we'll keep you posted as people safely respond to this high tide coming up through the rest of the half hour. We'll see you again in about 20 minutes. I'm meteorologist Ryan Breton, live in Portland, News Center, Maine.